Alright, this video is to show you how to install Code Composer Studio and Visual Analyzer. So the first thing we're going to do is install Code Composer Studio. So when you go into Moodle or Titanium, there's a link here on Titanium that says Code Composer Studio and Visual Analyzer install instructions. So go ahead and download that. When you download that, open it, and inside there's a bunch of links to get the IDE itself, all the libraries and packages that you need to install. Also, there's a Visual Analyzer link which we'll do after we'll install after we install Code Composer. And then there's links to the videos like this video and also the test video so you can test your installation. So first, let's go ahead and download Code Composer Studio. And install that. So when you click on that link, it's going to bring you to a wiki, and this wiki has a bunch of different versions of Code Composer Studio. We're going to install version 7, the latest one. I recommend the web installer. If you do the offline installer, it downloads everything, and we don't actually need everything. So go ahead and install the web installer. By the way, this video is only for installing on Windows. If you're using Linux or Mac OS, it should be a similar process, but I'm only going to make a video for Windows. So let's go ahead and download that. So it's a pretty small install because it's going to once you run it, it's going to download everything from the web that you select. So let's give it a second to open up here. Okay, so when it first opens, it gives you this first screen. Just say you accept it and go next. It's going to ask you for the installation location. Just leave it to the default. For Linux and Mac, leave it default as well. Alright, so you have a bunch of options. We only need one. Only install the C6000 Power Optimized DSP. Leave the others unchecked. Leave the TI XDS Debug Probe support checked. And then we need to check the Spectrum Digital Debug Probes and board. Leave Blackhawk Debug Probes unchecked, and then click Finish. So it may give you a warning about an antivirus. Just say yes. It may ask you again. It does say yes. It also so this will start the installation, and then you may get a window that you may or may not get a window that pops up asking to allow TI to have access to the network. You're going to have to say yes to that. You have to say continue to that or yes. If you don't, it won't be able to do the install. It's not popping up on mine for whatever reason, but in some installations it may ask you. So just make sure you say yes to that if it does. Another thing, depending on your network speed and computer speed, this installation may take a while. So I've heard it's taken up to 1 hour on some computers. So just be patient and let it do the installation. Alright, so once it's done, you'll get this confirmation. So just click Finish, and it'll launch Code Composer. So it's going to ask you if you want to select this directory. You're probably going to just leave it, have all your projects in here. So usually what I do is I use this as a default, so it doesn't keep on asking me every time I run Code Composer. But it's up to you. You don't have to. I would recommend you don't change the workspace around either. What's nice about it is that if you keep it in one workspace, when you do open up Code Composer, it'll have all your projects on there, so you don't have to keep jumping around. So I recommend you use it just one default workspace. Alright, so this will take a bit to open up. Okay, so this is what the front screen looks like. But before we use this, what we're going to do is close it, and we're going to install the rest of the libraries. So let me open that up. So we need to install this code generator tool. So we're going to click on that. Alright, so this one's very important that you get the right version. You have to, get the exact version because some of the newer versions don't work for the board. So you need to make sure you get 7.4.21. Alright, so I'm going to go on here and make sure that, so like all these other versions that are 8 will not work on our board. So we have to get the latest version of version 7.4. So I'm going to download that. This is an important step. You need to really make sure that you get the right version for this. The other stuff, the other libraries, you could just get the latest. Okay, so let me download this. Just click Civil and say yes to this, and you have to fill out your information. You're going to have to probably make a TI account to download this. I already have one. It's free, so just make a TI account. Download this, and then you need to also make sure with these libraries that you install it in the directory that I mentioned, because the example packages that I'm making are going to be searching in these particular directories. For Windows and Linux, you just replace this C drive TI with whatever the default installation path is for Linux or Windows. So you need to make sure you install everything in exactly. So by default, it's not installing in the right area. So we need to make sure that you install in the correct area, in the correct destination. So go ahead and let that install. Okay, now that that's installed, let's go ahead and get the emulation code. So you're gonna it's gonna take you to a Spectrum Digital page. You're going to get the target code. It's a zip file, so go ahead and download that. And this needs to be extracted in this location. So let's go ahead and do that location. So it needs to be extracted in here once the zip downloads. Alright, so we're going to open up the zip, and we're going to go to inside the zip, there's a folder called CC Studio, and then C6000, TSK6713. I'm going to copy these two subfolders into that location that's specified inside the PDF. So it has to be in this location. So I'm going to copy that into there. Alright, so that installed that. Next, we need to get the BIOS. So just download the latest version of this. Windows. By the way, the BIOS here, they only have installations for Linux and Windows, so I'm not sure about Mac. It may not work in Mac. And if you can't get the BIOS for Mac, then you can't use, you won't be able to use the board for Mac. So if you're going to do a Mac installation, please look into this first. So I think the default location is okay for this one, yes. So for the BIOS, the default location should be okay. Go ahead and install that. Okay, now that that's installed, the last one we have to do is a chip support library. So let's go ahead and download that. So this one's also a zip file. But with this one, though, it contains an exe that you need to execute inside of it. So let's go ahead and open up the zip, execute the exe. Now the default location on this one has to be changed. We're going to change it to this location. change that, and we'll do the install. Alright, so now once you've done that, your Code Composer Studio is fully installed. So let's go ahead. By the way, you don't need these icons. You can just erase those from your desktop. You only need this one. So let's go ahead and run this. And it should detect the BIOS installation. So once we open it, we should get a window asking us if we want to install the BIOS. So let's wait here for a second. Okay, so once it opens up here, so yes, it detected it. It should, on the first time after you install the BIOS, once you open it, you should get this window and it should detect it. So click install now. It'll install it. So take this second. If you get an update window, what you want to probably do is not restart it yet and then do the update. So just double click on this and hit next, accept terms, and hit finish, and it will do the update. And then what you do is restart the Code Composer Studio. So now it's asking me to restart. I'm going to say yes, and then what it's going to do is it's going to open up an installation window and download the updates and install it. Let it do that. That may take a second, a few minutes. So just be patient and let it do that. So here's the installation window. This will take a few minutes. Let it finish this installation window, and then once it's done, open Code Composer Studio again. Alright, so now it's fully installed. You may get this getting started screen. You can close that. And inside the Project Explorer, what we could do is we can import a project. So from Moodle or Titanium, what you could do is download the example that I have on the web page. So if you go to the 548 class, you'll see one that says C6713 sign example interrupting. Go ahead and download that. So let's go ahead and download that. And let's go ahead and import this example. So the way you import it is when you're going to go to File, Import, select Code Composer Studio, and then select CCS Project. Click Next, select Archive File, and then find that zip file. So it's going to be this example. Hit Finish, and it will import it. And if you installed everything correctly, you shouldn't get any errors when you build it. So go ahead and do Project Build. It may take a while to compile some of the libraries, so just be patient. When the first time you compile them, it takes a while. Well, that's installing. You may want to go and also download Visual Analyzer and install it. So just get the 2014 version and run the exe, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and run this and install it. So on this one, just put everything in the default locations. All right, and then in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to test all this stuff once you have it completely installed. So just click Next, Finish. Also, one other thing too, when you first compile it, if you get an error saying like acost.c in the library, just ignore it. There's an error in the library and there's no way of fixing it. But if that's the only error that you're getting, then everything looks like it's installed correctly and everything's working perfectly. So like I said, in the next video what we'll do is we'll actually use Visual Analyzer and Code Composer to do a test.